Imagine you've gone for a walk one day and you happen upon a pond. You're resting and enjoying the pond, and before you see a small child who falls into the pond and begins drowning. What should you do? The child can't get out of the pond themselves. They'll need someone to rescue them. Should you rescue them? Well, I think everyone would say, of course, you should rescue the child. But what if on this day you happen to be wearing your favourite pair of shoes, and they're quite an expensive pair of shoes, and if you go into the pond, you're likely to ruin them and make them useless to you, worthless. So in the process of destroying the shoes, you will save the child. Should you still save the child? I think many people will say, yes, of course you should save the child. It doesn't matter about the shoes. It matters that the child lives. In other words, say the shoes cost $200. That pair of shoes is worth a lot less than the child's life. I think many people would say the same, even if that pair of shoes was $1,000. What I want to ask you is, would you save this child's life if the pair of shoes you were wearing cost $3,340? Now, that probably sounds like quite an obscure and strangely precise number, but have a think about it. I think many people would say, although it's quite a lot of money, if I had those pair of shoes, then I think, yes, it's an expendable item of mine. It doesn't matter as much as a child's life. Well, this is one child who could be saved by that amount of money. This is a child living in rural Malawi in Africa, and she's holding a net that cost about $5 and was distributed by an organisation called the Against Malaria Foundation. The Against Malaria Foundation distributes these nets so that children like this one don't contract malaria. When you add up the total number of nets that they send out and the decreased risk of contracting malaria, it works out to be about $3,340 worth of nets for every child saved. So this is a great charity, and you might very well agree, but you might say it's still a lot of money, and isn't malaria something that we can't fix? Isn't it a perpetual issue? You might ask, well, can my efforts really fix this problem, and isn't this an ongoing problem that we can only manage and not fix? In response to that objection, I'd point you to the World Health Organization's World Malaria Report of this year, 2014. It showed evidence that between the year of 2000 and 2013, malaria incidents dropped by 30% globally and by 34% in Africa, and that the mortality rates decreased by about half, including for children under 5. I think what's so startling about these statistics is that in these 13 years so much has been accomplished with so little money. Available funding, the report says, is far less than what is required to protect everyone at risk. So your money can go a long way and can have a big impact on malaria incidents and mortality rates. Another objection that some people might have is say, well, I want to help people in my local community. I'm very empathetic towards people overseas, but I really wish that I could contribute to my local community a bit more. Well, let's go back to our thought experiment and change things a little bit. Let's say that you're wearing the same pair of expensive shoes, and you have now, instead of just one option, which is to save the child in the pond, you have two options. There is a child nearer to you who could use a pair of shoes, and your shoes would suit their needs very well, but still you can see that there's the child drowning in the pond, but they're farther away from you. What should you do now? Well, I think most people would say that you should still save the child in the pond. Although the child who doesn't have any shoes, who's nearer to you, could do with some shoes, and that would be a nice thing for you to do, the value of a child's life, another child's life, is worth more than this child not having any shoes. What if, though, there was a large river separating you from the child in the pond? What should you do now? Well, in this case, we might say that it's going to be a difficult journey to get to the child in the pond, and it would be easier, perhaps, to give our shoes to the child nearest to us. But I think most people, assuming it was a fairly tame river and you weren't putting your life at great risk, you would probably still want to cross it to save the child's life in the pond. What if now, instead of a river, there was impassable terrain in the form of large mountains? Well, in this case, since you can't pass over the mountains, you should probably just do what you can best do in your own life and in your own area, in the confines of your capacity, if you like, and you would give the shoes to the child nearer to you, saddened that you can't save the child in the pond. But in reality, these mountains don't exist, because with the power of the internet and international banking and aid organisations, you don't have to physically go and save the child in the pond. You can simply not buy these shoes in the first place and instead send the money overseas to aid organisations. So if you think that you could spare a small amount of money to donate to help save children's lives overseas, and you think that this is a worthy cause, I'd strongly encourage you to donate directly to the Against Malaria Foundation. However, I should acknowledge that this video has been created with the intention of people voting for this charity in a project called the P4A. There'll be links to this down below. The project aims to collect donations from a large group of people on YouTube and then spread these funds to a number of charities selected by the group who raises the funds. So this organisation, Against Malaria Foundation, is going to have my vote. Will it have yours? I hope it does, and I hope you visit the Project for Awesome webpage, where it's free to vote for any charity you wish, and it's also free to donate, and you can donate and that money will go to the charities voted on by the rest of the community. If you don't want to do that, you're welcome to give directly to the Against Malaria Foundation charity. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for helping make a difference in this world.